does America stand during this ongoing financial volatility when it comes to preparing for retirement? Well, Fidelity Investments wants to find out, so they did their first ever study on the topic. Ryan Victorian, CFP and financial consultant with Fidelity Investments, is here to help us assess where we stand when it comes to preparing. Hi, Ryan, how are you?
Hi, I'm great.
Excellent. Let's dive in. I'd love to hear about all the findings from this study. You're revealing that there is a drop in financial preparedness when it comes to retirement, but maybe we're not quite there.
Well, I'll give you some background behind that. So, since the start of the pandemic, Americans have lived through so many challenges, including the recent market volatility you mentioned and record high inflation. So, there's no surprise that many really feel uneasy about their long-term financial outlook. And as you mentioned, our retirement saving assessment shows that America's retirement score has declined from an all-time high. And this means that American savers are now projected to have only about 78% of the income needed to cover their expenses in retirement. And there's really two factors that have driven this drop. First, people are invested more conservatively. And second, people are actually saving less. And even though Americans have saved up more since 2020, the amount that many are saving on a regular basis to get to retirement has declined. And the biggest drop we've seen amongst those millennials.
Okay, very interesting, of course. It doesn't entirely surprise me. Regardless of age, we need to determine how much we need for retirement. I saw that you had a scale with a bit of a score. How do we determine exactly what we're going to need? How do we add up and come up with that amount?
Well, Fidelity has a rule of thumb to help you figure out how much you should aim to save, to your point. In general, try and save about 10 times your income by the time you get to 67. And I know that might be different for everyone, and it might feel a little intimidating, but that's why it's important to start saving early. And unless something is done to change the saving and investing habits of Americans, our study finds that more than half of us may be unable to afford to pay for basic expenses over the course of their retirement, much less the retirement dreams. And the good news is, though, it's never too late to start planning. And in my experience, those with a well thought out plan and saving strategy have higher confidence, less stress, and generally are sleeping better at night.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that encouragement. You have some additional tips that I know you'd like to share to help us make sure that we're, improving the chances of retiring with enough money in the bank. And that is the goal.
Yes, I have 3 tips for you. So first of all, obviously save as much as you can. And Fidelity recommends saving about 15% of your income, which includes your company match if you have access to a 401k. And again, this can seem like a lot these days, but even increasing contributions by 1% each year can make a huge difference. And then once you have started saving, the second thing is making sure the money you have worked so hard for is working for you, which means having the right mix of stocks, bonds, and cash based on how far away you are from retirement and how comfortable you are with risk. And finally, the third thing is you could wait a little longer to retire, but what we've often seen is people ease into retirement. So they have more time for themselves, but they still have access to some benefits and some income by working a little longer.
For sure. Ryan, I've noticed that as well amongst my friends. There's a whole group of semi-retired people. And then there are those folks who say, gosh darn it, I'm never going to retire. So yeah, it's different for everybody. But the key is to know where you stand. Where can people access more information and also maybe help make some calculations and come up with their score?
Yeah, we have several resources to help you get things started, including that Fidelity retirement score. And honestly, this is what I help clients understand every single day. Your score can help you see where you stand now and whether you need to make any changes given what you're hoping to accomplish. It's a great starting point, but also a really great thing to refer back to and revisit when things change in your life or if it's outside of your control, like market volatility, like right now.
Ryan, thank you so much. We really appreciate all the great info and the great reminder, the push to start planning ahead now.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that was Ryan Victorian, financial planner with Fidelity. She had some great information. In fact, I think I want to watch this interview back. If you would like additional information, you can visit the website fidelity.com/score. You can also watch this segment again on our website.